I really enjoyed this film. Tom is such an interesting character. He's very, there's an innocence to him, but a chameleonic quality also. He's fascinating. So in your director statement, Ethan, I think you said your intention was to make a realistic, authentic portrayal of what this Greek life is. What was the catalyst for that? Was it the news reports of hazing deaths? Is that kind of what started it all?
Yeah, it was both my experience being at college and observing my friends join during college and understanding how popular it was, how much influence fraternities have, uh, how it's kind of trauma bonding, and then yeah, I mean, that was kind of the source. And also the hazing deaths. I mean, every year there's another news report about somebody dying in a hazing related incident at a fraternity. And I feel like I'm accustomed to, seeing a different depiction of them on screen. And it just felt important to me.
Yeah. And so I get an idea. I think I read casting started like in 2019. I could be wrong. When was the actual production period for the film? How long back are we talking?
Well, I wrote the first draft in 2012, and then by 2018 we had like revised it a number of times, and we were able to get Alex on board, which was a game changer. But it took a couple. We ended up filming at the end of 2021, and Alex stuck with it the whole time because he believed in the project, and I'm eternally grateful to him. So,
Yeah, I can see why he did, but what interested you so much, Alex, and sticking with this?
Well, Ethan and the script and the character. Yeah, I was attached to it for I don't even know how many years, but there was never ever a thought that I wouldn't do it. You know, when I say I'm going to do something, I throw my whole weight behind it, and I fell in love with the story. I fell in love with Ethan's vision, and I found this character to be um, impossible to nail a judgment on. Um, I found him to be very colorful, very filled with a lot of stuff, and maybe the most um, at times morally reprehensible character I played, which is saying a lot because I've played some it may maybe not the number one most morally reprehensible, but at times deeply insensitive and doing things that I find were pretty disgusting to go through. That's my AOL. But at the same time, I found him to be very innocent and likable and warm and lonely. And I really empathized with him in a lot of ways, and I sympathized with him, and I felt that there's a lot of Tom in all of us, especially men in America. No matter what background, there's something intrinsically conflicted about that character that I found constantly fascinating the whole time I did it. And it kind of came to me more naturally than I would have expected. And I remember seeing it for the first time and thinking, wow, when I was doing that, it felt like we were all goofing around in a scene. And when I watched it, I felt ill. I felt like I couldn't believe the things that I was saying and doing. So I hopefully it's a wake up call for parents whose sons maybe have echoes of Tom, or kids who say, sort of see how when you rely completely on the affection of the people around you, and you sacrifice your own moral integrity to sort of be a part of something that feels big and you know is going to promise great riches, and that you need to be very, very careful, and you need to kind of check in with yourself and go, well, am I doing this because it's actually what I want to be doing, or am I doing this because it's just easier to get these people off my back, or am I just doing it because it pleases these people, and it kind of elevates my rank? And so I think that this movie deals with it in a way, in a more direct way than a movie I've seen in a long time.
I think also, like, to me, like, Alex brings tremendous like humanity to the character, and I think like a lot of people can relate to this idea of like compromising their morals because they think it's a way to get ahead,
And it's
and
easier, and he's a boy. That's another thing that I just keep wanting to highlight is he's a kid. They're kids, and it's really easy to look at these people and go, I would never do that, all right? And then I know a lot of older people have reflected on their childhood to me and gone, when I was a teenager, I was rethinking some things, and I think this movie is about that time in your life, or that in between where you could go one way or the other. And I think luckily Tom goes a way that I think he almost escapes the darkness. He almost escapes, but I think he's just in a little bit too deep, and makes too many bad decisions. And I just found that to be really fascinating.
Tom is also a character who like doesn't realize that he has agency. Um, and I think that like the garage scene is the culmination of that, but he can leave. Um,
Yeah,
and
he's
I,
so insecure. He's so
yeah,
insecure.
and he
He's
wants to,
way
and
to
you
making a
the
wall.
chameleon thing, it's like, you picked up on something because it's like at the beginning, his mother calls him Forrest Gump, and then by the end, he's lost his accent. But ultimately, I feel like what we're trying to say is that, the silence is what like keeps the cycle going, and the next person dies at the next school, and it's time for us to be like accountable and to acknowledge that this is an issue.
Absolutely. I love all of that. And I think Tom sort of stands out in the way that he does have this ability to sort of learn and change. When he's corrected on saying an offensive word, he takes it to heart. And I think a lot of that is from a working class background. I think a lot of these other people in the frat, they're born rich, and there's
Yeah,
kind of
totally.
it creates like a block that they can't escape, who this inevitable drive towards who they're becoming. Um, I love the way you described watching this too, Alex. Like in the moment, it was kind of goofy and absurd when you're acting, doing these things, but watching it made you kind of ill, like at how awful it was. There's kind of an ecstatic brutality to it that becomes
Yeah,
normalized,
exactly.
you
Exactly.
know, when you're doing it together. And since making this film, have you noticed, has the process of making this movie made you more aware of certain things in society, or has it like helped your tuning fork pick up on certain things for either of you?
Yeah, for me, yeah, it really has.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like, yeah, I've thought it like, I don't know, when we when we screened it at Tribeca, I had somebody come up to me and tell me that it reminded them of their like military enlistment in Switzerland. And I feel like, you just start realizing that like men have a tendency to like measure their masculinity by how much trauma they can endure. And it exists in various forms, but you know, I don't know why we've accepted that as the norm.
Absolutely. I I'm curious, Alex, you have so many other great actors you work with in this film. It's kind of a stacked cast. Even if some scenes are small, they're so self-contained and excellent, like the John Malkovich dinner scene, the first time with him. Oh, who was maybe the most interesting to work opposite of? You have so many other great actors in this movie, or the
Well, I
most
felt
fun, or something
it was
like that.
like it was like being on a tour in a museum of like the greatest exhibits in the world, kind of like, okay, well, here's the unbelievable You're like, whoa, look at this one. And then you go to the next one. Whoa, it's like you're in an aquarium with all these amazing fish. Like I got to be up close with John Malkovich and then up close with Austin Abrams. And one of my favorite things about the script, another thing that drew me to it is so many scripts are about the propulsion of set pieces and propulsion of plot points. And this movie very confidently has one-on-one dialogue scenes that are more exciting than any car chase, in my opinion. And I think that I got really lucky because I just won the lottery with this role, because I get to have a one-on-one scene with John, I get to have one-on-one scene with Austin Abrams, one-on-one scene with Lewis Pullman, and one-on-one scene with Halle Bailey, one-on-one scene with, I get to have these unbelievable scenes where I get to watch these incredible actors work. And I think that was one of the great gifts of getting to do this movie is it was an embarrassment of riches, even down to the kids from the fraternity, because we went to live with a fraternity for a week to prepare and picked up a few fraternity members and put them in the movie. One of them is Nick Basile, who, has a real part in the film, and now just got signed by an agent and is really pursuing being an actor. And he, even the scenes with him really helped me. And they're like, hey, when they tell you to sizzle like bacon, you should really get on the ground. And I'm like, okay, that's how you get hazed. That's how you. So I felt just makes you feel so much safer to take a big swing because this character, is a big swing. So I just got so lucky. I couldn't have done it with anyone uh, else but Ethan too, because Ethan and I both felt like we were out of our depths. At depth or depths? We were out of our depth, I think, together.
I like watching him work is incredible. Getting the opportunity to collaborate with him is incredible. I feel like when you have somebody like him setting the tone, it's, I mean, all you can ask is that people are invested in a movie, and to have Alex, I mean, watching him with Angus in the scene was unbelievable.
Yeah,
And
we'd love to highlight that if we can. I've been sort of, not wanting to get too emotional talking about it, but yeah, Angus, part of the reason the movie is also so valuable to me is I believe that Angus Cloud was one of the best actors of his generation. And, uh, you know, it reminded me of when you act with a little kid or you act with an animal. It was like you saw what it was to be purely emotional, and he had no bad habits, no anything. If I was ever being phony in a scene, which would happen often because I'm an actor, he would find a way to say something that was real. And so not only did he become one of my best friends, um, you know, John Malkovich and everybody was unbelievable to work with, but working with Angus was unlike anything I've ever experienced or will ever experience. And I said that, long before he was gone, that it just, I understand how he did what he did as an actor. It really escaped me. I couldn't see any tricks, any tools. It was all from his gut. And it was the most inspiring thing in the world. And I think about him all the time when I'm acting and other things, and I think about, well, how would Angus do this? And I think since then I've tried to approach every role with a sense of Angus too, a sense of that innocence and fragility and openness, and fearlessness.
Yeah,
I feel like less was more with him, and that's that was kind of a gift.
You always say ask for forgiveness, not for permission, as an actor, and I stole that, and I try to do that. I try to just ask for forgiveness on a take or something. He just would, yeah.
Yeah, just do what feels present. And it's a great loss that he's not present, but immortalized in films like this. But thank you very much for discussing the film. I have to take off. I could talk about this for a while. I'd love to pick your brain on Leonard Cohen too, Alex. What a
Oh
polar
yeah, we'll do
opposite.
that.
What a polar opposite.
Wow.
I mean,
Crazy.
seemingly in my mind, but thank you
Oh,
both.
completely polar
Thank you
opposite, like
so
a different
much.
part of your brain. Thank you so much.
I
Appreciate
really appreciate it. And yeah, thank you for sharing everything.
Thanks for a
Thank
great
you.
interview.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.